If you're currently advising Twitter, how do you prepare them for a hearing like this today?
Well, look, the concerns with tech are broader than Washington. They're broader than Republicans or Democrats. The techlash, or the so-called techlash, is where the populism of the left has met the populism of the right. The good news is these companies have been very successful creating products a lot of people want. The challenge is these days big is bad, and both sides are looking to take down the giants of the economy.
Mazel, when you have a president who says we should sue Facebook and Google, I'm not really, and I don't know what the context was or whether there was anything additional to that. I'm not quite sure what it means, but how do you, from a perspective of rule of law, FTC, DOJ, anti-competition, how do you view something like that, and what should they be doing?
Well, one of the problems is exactly what you just described. What would you sue them for? And you have to figure out what that is. Now, there's a whole bunch of people who are concerned about content, whether they're putting on right content, how they make decisions about content, whether they do it fast enough. That's one of the hearings. And unfortunately, the legislative process is a static solution to an evolving problem. So hopefully they'll get to the point where you can see some real coalition building between government and industry to figure out what the right answers are, and that has to be a moving target. At the same time, though, you may also begin to see some differences between how each of these companies want to approach this problem.
I mean, are the companies doing a good job responding? Feels like the response has been, you know, we're sorry, we need to be regulated, we're going to help be part of the solution. Is that cutting it?
Well, the problem is that even if they have a perception problem. Even if you create new mechanisms, you're dealing with real-time problems. You're dealing with people posting immediately, and there's never going to be a perfect solution. But there may be different things that people can do to respond more quickly. One of the things that's a challenge for these companies is they also have to respond to questions and scrutiny more quickly. That means they need more transparency. Hopefully you'll see more of that today.
Yeah, Bruce, are we going to see more transparency in general? Is that part of what you're advising them to proceed with?
Well, that's certainly been the trend towards greater transparency. The content moderation issue is challenging. You have Republicans on the right criticizing them for censoring too much, and Democrats on the left criticizing them for not censoring enough. The reality is there are hundreds of millions or billions per day, per month, per week of tweets, of Facebook posts, and their ability to screen and to knock down vast sums of bad tweets, of bad content is really extraordinary. The challenges are when 0.1% gets through, and the 0.1% are dangerous people, everybody is mad, but for different reasons. This is the hardest issue. It's harder than antitrust. It's harder than privacy that the tech platforms face.
So, Bruce, we're going to have a Democratic debate starting tonight. What do you expect? How much bashing will there be of your clients?
Well, gosh, they only have about 10 minutes apiece, and they need to punch the president. They probably want to get a lick in on Joe Biden, which makes shooting at tech maybe your third aside. But again, the populism on the left, big is bad, global is to be concerned. The unchecked power of billionaires is to be feared. That all fits picking on the tech companies. So I think you'll see, starting with Senator Warren, a decent amount tonight and a decent amount tomorrow night of suggestions of who's going to be more aggressive in regulating the new big players.
Well, Mazel, we do have investigations underway at both the Department of Justice and the FTC. In terms of just timeline, given you obviously were at the FTC and a commissioner there, how long should we expect those to go on before we even know if they're going to lead to anything?
It's going to take a while. First of all, there's got to be an agreement about what the investigation, the scope of the investigation. Then they have to collect data, not only from the companies, but also people who are around the companies. Then they have to make a decision. They have to present a decision to the commissioners. The commissioners then have to decide whether they want to sue or not. And then if they do decide to sue, they actually have to win a case, and then there has to be a remedy. You know, one of the interesting things about today, too, there's also someone missing from the table. You're talking about a lot of these issues dealing with censorship and terrorism and threats. The security people, the Homeland Security people have to be at the table too, because they have a hand on both sides of the equation. Not only they don't want to see these things posted, but they also need to know where they are to figure out who the terrorists are. So they have to be working in this mix too. I hope that we hear something about that today.
I mean, is there a fix to this ahead of the 2020 election?
Well, it's going to be interesting. You talked about what we're going to hear tonight. I'd be curious to hear what some candidates might be talking about that's not really about the companies, but about a change in the regulatory system of the United States to be something more intrusive. You know, the FTC is an enforcement agency. They enforce people who break the law, but they are not sitting there and they're not regulating a public utility or the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, who sits down and monitors every single thing the internet does. I'm curious to see whether some people are advocating a change to how we look at regulation. And if so, what's their solution?
Right. Bruce, do you agree? Does there need to be a change overall in regulation?
Well, I agree with Moselle that that will be the topic of the debate and of a lot of the Democratic primary, with probably universal agreement among Democrats that there is excessive concentration, too much power among a select few companies, a select few executives. Whether or not I think that's necessary, it depends. It depends which area you're taking a look. Sometimes enforcement can get things done. Sometimes the pressure. I think these hearings on AI and the ethics of AI are terrifically healthy and are fairly early in the development and deployment of AI, that perhaps AI can be deployed in a more responsible way with less externalities than perhaps social media was.